Do calories even matter? That is the topic of this video. I saw this guy interviewing yet another person. If you haven't seen my other one that I did with kind of reviewing this guy's channel, it was the Glucose Goddess, who seemed a bit confused about life. And so let's see what this guy has to say. He's talking about calories. I guess I'll let this run for a little while here because there's like music at the beginning. I do not feel like getting copyright struck. So he talks about people getting fatter and calories don't matter. I don't know. Let's run with this. Let's see what he says. I think the music stops soon. No, still not there. That is the most confusing statement that he made there. I know I had the music going, but who's going to say that vegan is a choice? It's like the cheapest way of eating. What the hell is this guy talking about? So I don't know. Let's see where else this goes.
Just want to start this episode.
I'm not, by the way, I'm not going to watch this whole thing. There's no way in hell I'm watching an hour and 52-minute video. But I wanted to hopefully we can grab some information from this. It looks like he does have, okay, he does have some timestamps here. We are definitely going to be utilizing those. Let's get started. Matter of fact, I don't even feel like watching the beginning of this. All right, let's start from here.
A number of shows on the BBC and documentaries, right? I found 3 at least. The first one in 2016 called Why Are We Getting So Fat? Mm-hmm. In 2017, Clean Eating, The Dirty Truth. And in 2018, Vitamin Pills, Miracle.
Vitamins.
And obviously as well, you've written these 2
for English, he doesn't speak it well.
Why Calories Don't Count and Gene Eating. So my question becomes, why did you focus on food? Why did you care personally enough to pursue with such persistence the topic of food? Why is that personal to you? You could have done anything with your intelligence. Why food?
So, well, first of all, I love food.
Yeah.
so there's that. I do love food.
I love
But actually, no, we follow
food.
the biology. So we now understand more broadly that when we study the genetics of body weight, we are, by its very definition, studying the genetics of how our brain influences our feeding behavior. So there was an academic reason for this.
That's
so
actually
example,
what.
why do some people respond to stress by
Dude, stop
eating?
talking. That's what. Is it going to show up? Yeah. Turn off the fat genes. He's basically parroting that. I don't know. Let's see where this goes.
Whereas other people respond to stress by not eating. It's exactly the same hormone.
Cortisol.
Some people literally respond in diametric opposite fashions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fight or flight.
Why do people
cortisol.
love food? Some people use food as fuel, et cetera, et cetera. And so on my academic side, I began to try and understand the mechanisms. I was interested in that. But then it got me thinking about food. It got me thinking, well, hang on a second. When I travel, just as an example, particularly pre-COVID, and I end up in an airport
Here we go.
international, O'Hare in Chicago or something like that, and I'm transferring planes for whatever
I love
reason,
that place, man. My grandma and I used to go there and watch people because she lived in Chicago. I used to go there during the summer.
I find myself I get stressed a little bit. I find myself having to eat a big bowl of carbs, particularly rice or noodles. And I was thinking about
Ooh, stereotypes.
this became a habit. Whatever airport I'm in, particularly if I was transiting, I would try and find the closest place I could get a big bowl of noodles. In fact, just before I came here, what I had for lunch, I went to Bone Daddy's to have ramen. So that's exactly that. I wasn't stressed, but I was trying to relax.
Okay.
And so that was what really got me into. I said, well, hang on a second. What is it about food that makes me relax and calm that I love?
Yep.
And then what is it about food that makes some
It's
people
cortisol. It's cortisol. I like cortisol. Cortisol. It's hormones. I mean, This whole thing is hormones. And the more I dig into this, the more I'm really realizing just how much water plays a part in this, and how if you watch some of these, like the McDougals of the world, who doesn't ever mention it, he looks pretty bad. And even down to the fruitarians who think that, they have a mango and that's all the water they need. These people do not look good. There was a guy, I can't even remember his name anymore, but I think he's actually dead. He was one of Doug, but not Doug Graham, somebody else. And he stopped drinking water altogether. And I think he died, but he was huge on the vegan scene like 10 years ago.
Angry. We're almost religious, almost evangelical about it. And that is where I started thinking there is a link here between what I do in my day job in the lab and teach and what have you.
Oh,
and what I think about, from
I am all for being your own laboratory. How has our perspective on food changed?
Let's start.
All right, I'm going to link this down below. So if you want to watch this, whole thing in entirety, go for it. I'm just going to kind of switch around here. Otherwise, this will be like a 3-hour video, and I really have never even come close to that and don't want to.
Mm-hmm. With my genetic makeup,
yep.
How might there be differences in my genetic makeup that make my relationship with food and eating and weight loss different?
It's so bizarre. I mean, this is literally what Barnard book's about.
I probably don't have as good an answer. Genetics does not have as good an answer about why different people eat differently, aside from cultural differences at the moment.
That's not true.
Genetics.
That is not true. This book right here,
it's very difficult to accurately determine what someone.
This book right here actually answers those questions. So I question what he questions and reads
in order to do genetics.
Now, Barnard does say that there's a lot still to be known, but there's a lot about that in this book.
What we do know, because we can actually observe, is how people of different ethnicities are susceptible to different diseases. So famously, East Asian people that look like me, South Asian people, Indian, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, cannot get as large, BMI-wise, before becoming at risk of type 2 diabetes, right? Compared to white people.
It's just like, famously, if you live, I don't know, if you're one of these people that really hardcore follows Durian Rider and you think you got to live in Thailand or the Philippines or something, and you go there and you see these skinny women or men or whatever sex you are or whatever you're looking at, you are never, ever going to get, unless you're Asian yourself, to a level that they can, because their skeletons are smaller, their DNA is complete, it's just not DNA. Their genetics are just completely different.
Okay, who can get pretty large before they actually end up getting diseases. So that's a classic example.
It's just like if you watch, if you really want to see this video that I'm watching, I'm going to link it below because, I cut it in. But if you watch, what the fuck was this thing? Cut myself off.
This is why South Asian people, East Asian people have a higher predisposition of diabetes, even though obesity is not particularly a big thing in their.
That's what it is. So talking about Asians and white people, if you look at Asians, it does not take very much extra overweightness to look really bad. Whereas somebody who's maybe taller or just bigger bones or whatever, it can take a lot of pounds for you really to start noticing
in their cultures. But then you begin to look at body shape. That does matter as well. Where do you put your fat? Do you tend to put the fat on your bum, on your tummy? What is your how tall are you? How short are you?
And putting weight on your butt is far less fatal, basically, than on your gut.
And all of these things, which we can see visually, we can see, there are people who are then susceptible or not susceptible to specific diseases. Other things you can't see, okay? Why are African Americans, for example, more likely to end up with cardiovascular heart disease, okay? Less likely with diabetes. Whereas why are Indians, more? And so
I don't know about that one. The diabetes one, I don't know about that one. Most black people I've known over the years, their parents have diabetes, and they eventually get it too.
Begin to ask the question, and there we have genetics.
What about in terms of this obese gene? I read in chapter 2 of your book that there is a gene for obesity.
There are more than 1,000 genes for body weight. The obese gene in chapter 2, which I talk about, is this leptin gene, is this gene which lets your brain know how much fat you have. So that's the exact gene. Leptin is the gene that I'm.
Yeah. Not that I'm the expert, you know. I mean, he's certainly done more than I have. But from what I understand, the more fat you have, the more leptin you have. And if you try to change that, you can actually get fatter. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this Dr. Barnard book.
Talk about in chapter 2 with the obese. It's called the obese gene because the mouse was called obese. There was a lack of imagination because the mouse was a.
Now, all right. So this study that he's talking about, they gave the mice in this study leptin, and it worked wonders on these mice. Got so skinny and normal weight. They tried the same thing with humans. It had zero to no effect, or it made people fatter.
Naturally occurring mouse that had a mutation in the same gene. Scientists found out what that was, and then found out that it was conserved or a lot.
Does our brain like us losing weight? I did the keto diet recently for about 2 months. And
why did you do it, and why'd you come off?
I did it because I wanted to. Okay, this is interesting. It shows how much of a Neanderthal I am. I thought I was allergic to gluten.
Hey.
So I thought, I'll cut out all of the things that have gluten in them.
This whole gluten thing.
And so I then watched this video online, and it talked about the keto diet. So I thought, oh, that sounds good. And this guy had lost so much weight doing it, so I gave it a try. Now, I lost so much weight. More weight than I've ever lost in my life. Extreme. I did it for about 8 weeks. I lost about a stone in weight. The reason
I think that's 14 pounds. I cannot believe a country of this size is still using stones to measure weight. Where do they keep these stones? Like, who owns these stones? Like, do you have to go to a certain place to get these stones and put them on? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And anyway, if you go to keto, you are going to lose weight in the beginning because you're poisoning yourself, and your body's like, oh, we're being poisoned. We got to do something about this. And then it starts shedding water weight to get rid of, to get rid of the poisons. It's a hot mess, man.
I came off it was because it was hard.
It was hard.
In a simple word, it was difficult. And I don't know, I felt like I was fighting against something.
How long ago did you come off it? And the crucial piece of information I'm interested in is, have you gained any weight back?
45 days ago, none of your business. I'm joking. No, I gained so much weight back.
There you go. There you go.
I didn't just gain the stone I'd lost. I think I gained a little bit more back.
100%. Every time. If you're watching this, you're on keto, you love that keto life, that isn't going to be your life. Now, if you are on keto for 10 years, like I was, it's going to be a whole lot worse than his 2 months.
I think I gained a stone and a bit back. I mean, I'm not in bad shape, but like for me, I went from being absolutely lean, like I'm ready for Men's Health, to being like, back to being like, I'd say athletic now. But I gained back the weight I'd lost and more.
Yep, every time.
So this is why I asked the question about the brain. My brain didn't seem to be on board with me. It didn't seem to want the best for us.
That is the dumbest statement maybe this guy's made so far. You're poisoning your body. And he's trying to say that your brain doesn't have your best interest in mind. You're poisoning yourself. Oh, wow.
And it seemed to want to return me back to my default base state.
Or it just didn't want to be poisoned.
Your brain, everyone's brain hates it when they lose weight. It doesn't matter your starting point. You could start from a point where you are athletic versus someone who's not athletic, couch potato type phenotype. The moment you
potatoes are good for you, man. What are you trying to say?
Lose a little bit of weight. We're talking even a few pounds. I'm not even talking, you're talking about a stone. Even if you lost 5 pounds, what happens in your brain is your brain is used to you or me carrying a certain amount of weight. The moment your weight starts to go down as an adult, it goes, hey, this is a big flag comes up. this is reducing my chance of survival. This is what the brain thinks. And so what it does is it begins to use strategies, not conscious, nothing to do with our brain, anything like that, to drag us back up, kicking and screaming to where we were before. First of all,
yeah, and you see this a lot in the comment section, people defending real hard their calorie counting or defending, just various different things. Let's go to this one. Probably get commercials because it seems to every time.
A lot of money.
So let's talk about how we fix the obesity, how we burn fat, and how we all get into a healthy weight. Now, I know you think that BMIs are largely bullshit and unhelpful. Is that an accurate description of your opinion?
Okay, look, before I don't want to.
Yes, it's just completely arbitrary numbers, just like calories are. It's ridiculous. I was doing an insurance policy one time on this guy that lifted weights, right? His BMI, I mean, like competitively, but he was, I forget what it was, like 5% body fat or something like that. But his BMI was like a 32 or some crazy number. I actually had to send pictures down with his application.
End up with my colleagues throwing shoes at me. So I think, so BMI, for those of you who don't know, BMI is obviously your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters square. It's a way of controlling for your height and your weight. Now, on a population level, okay, it is actually remarkably effective. Why? Because A, it's free to measure. It doesn't cost anything. And on average in a population, sadly, the higher your BMI, the more fat you carry. And we know that the more fat
but that's not always the case.
You carry, the more likely you are to be unhealthy. Okay, on a population level.
But I'll agree with that.
This is true. You might argue rugby players, different this, and this is true. On an individual level, however, it is not particularly useful for your health, other than tracking your weight. It's about as useful as that, because each of us are different shapes, different sizes, can carry different amounts of fat, safely. So that is the problem with obesity, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got somebody like me, right? I've got a lot of muscle mass still from my lifting days because they say it just evaporates off. That's garbage. But I'm not on any pills whatsoever, none. Every time I go to the doctor, they want me on pills so bad. They're like, how can you be 42 and not on any pills, man? All right, well, we could try to give you this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, whoop, red flag. See you later. I'm out.
It depends on who you are, how heavy is heavy before it actually begins to actually influence your health.
So let's talk about food a little bit. I'm currently doing some kind of version of intermittent fasting.
This guy is in charge of interviewing with 2.3 million subscribers, 2.3 people who are going to have you on a damn roller coaster. How does this happen? I don't understand how this world operates sometimes.
Right?
Details. What,
well,
some kind of version?
I just don't. Let's call it time-restricted eating.
Oh, okay. Yep. Right.
Basically, I don't have breakfast. I actually don't really get hungry at breakfast, to be completely honest with you.
I'm just like destroying my thyroid, but I'm interviewing people. Oh gosh, I can't stand this.
I tend to get hungry a bit later in the day, so I haven't eaten anything today. God forbid, it's 3:30 p.m.
That's a good idea. That's a recipe for being on a roller coaster. If you like roller coasters, this will keep you on that roller coaster the rest of your life.
Wow.
I know, but I just don't seem to get hungry yet.
Okay.
And then I read your book.
This is what happens. Your thyroid stops working because you're starving yourself. And people are like, oh, I'm just not hungry anymore. My cortisol's through the roof, but I'll just fast.
And in chapter 3 of Gene Eating, you talk about front loading your food in the day.
That's not a bad idea.
Fucking hell. I'm trying my best here, Giles. And
what is this guy trying to lose anyways? He looks like a normal weight.
Told me to eat later in the day, to skip breakfast. We don't need it. And then to time restrict your eating. And then I read your book.
Didn't he talk to this goddess chick? What did she tell him? I didn't watch the rest of that. It was like two people on ASMR falling asleep trying to listen to that. I couldn't do it
And
anymore.
it says, front load your food, have a big breakfast, medium lunch, small dinner. What's the truth?
Okay, so that is I mean, I think most societies have a similar saying. The Chinese have a similar saying as this as well. So a couple of things.
What saying?
Eat like a king at breakfast, a prince at lunch, and a pauper at dinner time.
Yeah,
so
I've heard that so many times.
Have a similar saying, because I think people kind of work this out. Now, there is some truth to this, but then I'll come back and explain what the truth is. So the some truth is that actually, clearly, our metabolism is highest during the day, because we have to avoid becoming food and we have to look for food. Okay, so that's the thing. Whereas at night when we're asleep, our metabolism
Cortisol.
drops. So if you eat your biggest meal at night, and then a couple of hours later you go to sleep, then clearly you are loading your calories and then going to sleep, which is in storage mode. Whereas if you eat your biggest meal during the day, you have the whole day left in order to burn it. Now, homeostasis, it does balance itself out. So it's not the driver of obesity, but undoubtedly it will make a little bit of a difference there, okay? But then a friend of mine, Alexander Johnstone, Professor Alexander Johnstone, up at the Rowett Institute in Aberdeen, just published a study, I think probably only 3 months ago, okay, which was very interesting. So what she did was she got people, a cohort of people, and got them to eat exactly the same number of calories. They supplied the food, so they knew what they were going to do, okay? And they did it either by front-loading all the calories at breakfast or back-loading all the calories at dinner, but everyone ate exactly the same thing, and then everyone then swapped, okay? So everyone did the whole thing.
That's interesting.
And what she found was that there was no difference in body weight change, whether or not you were eating most of your calories at breakfast or most of your calories at dinner. It was the total amount of energy during the day.
Energy, exactly. That is what calories, that is what you are looking for, is energy, not calories.
The difference was, if you ate more at breakfast, you felt less hungry during the day than if you ate more at dinner. So while if you ate exactly...
Interesting. All right, I'm going to go to the next one.
Obviously, I talked to Tim Spector a lot about that, and it really is a kind of a narrative buster that calories are not accurate.
So, look, I speak a lot about calories. I understand that 200 calories of chips is twice the portion of 100 calories of chips, but so is 200.
Is that like a math problem here?
Of chips, twice the portion of 100 grams of chips. And no one is trying to compare 200 grams of chips to 200 grams of carrots. Broadly speaking, that's what it is. The calorie is a very useful tool to give you a general idea how much you are eating during the day. That is true, okay? How much you're eating. But it tells us nothing, zero, about the quality of food you're eating, about how much protein, how much fiber, what type of fat, how much sugar. The calorie tells you absolutely
interesting
nothing.
when he mentions protein
it gives you
first.
A piece of information, how much food you
wonder if he's just another one of these trolls.
I can see how that could be important. But I would like to see a world we live in where we were more concerned about the quality of food we are feeding ourselves, our kids, other people, than necessarily just the pure caloric content.
Yep.
Because I've got a friend that said to me, won't name him, but he got a friend that said to me that you can basically, as long as you count the calories, you can eat whatever you like. So you can have the Domino's pizza, you can have this, but you just got to make sure
of course. And you can also have the heart attack that comes along with it.
Allowance, and then it's all good.
So now, it depends what your calorific allowance is, and it will clearly, if you stick to a purely calorie counting diet of, say, 2,000 calories, and you stuck to that religiously, okay, the chances are you probably would lose weight, because we probably burn more than that. But how healthy would you be? I think is probably the question.
There you go.
Whereas
I'm actually going to end on that, because everybody thinks that being skinny is healthy. There's plenty of skinny people who die of heart disease, cancer, and everything else. So your goal should be to be healthy, not have your bikini body weight by June. Anyway, I'm going to end the video there. Maybe there's more tidbits in here. I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. So there you go. Anyway, like, subscribe, or comment, questions, all that down below, and I'll talk to you in the next video.